going on from parts of the establishment who are looking for any excuse to stop this or to delay it. The instruction of the people wasn't leave subject to a deal, it was leave. Leave. It wasn't even Brexit, it's actually worse than remaining in the European Union. I want a clean, proper Brexit.
All right,
let's be very clear. What we need is leadership that is prepared to either negotiate a good deal or walk away. No deal, no problem, no money. We save 39 billion, we spend it back in the UK. Garbage in equals garbage out with these economic models. There's a wonderful opportunity as long as we leave the customs union, because that's crucial. We can then have a free port, and free ports generate thousands and thousands of manufacturing jobs. If we have no deal, we're not going to pay 39 billion unless our negotiators are incredibly weak, and that actually really concentrates the minds of the European Union. Because if they haven't got 39 billion of our money, they are bust. Oh, come on. Let's be clear. We all know in business that no deal is better than a bad deal. Of course it's true. Every business person knows that. And this is the worst deal ever in history, to pay £39 billion for nothing guaranteed in return.
Please welcome to the stage, Richard Tice.
Hello! That's a bit loud. Wow, here we are in sunny Wales. It's always sunny here, isn't it? Sunny in Merthyr Tydfil. Welcome, Brexiteers. Thank you very much. And some of you have had to work quite hard just to get in the car park. Unbelievable, isn't it? That some people would try and stop free speech, try and stop democracy. But we know that we've got right on our side. I'm Richard Tice. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been involved in running small businesses, medium and large. I've been involved in building thousands of homes, creating tens of thousands of construction jobs. And I sort of had a vague interest in politics, which grew. It's almost taken over the day job, actually. And I must confess, I was a member of the wrong political party. I know. Actually, you're much nicer. Some crowds give me a really hard time for that. But I accepted the invitation 5 weeks ago when we launched to be the chairman of the new Brexit party. And I think it's fair to say we've been quite busy in the last 5 weeks. We really have taken the political world by storm. We've made huge progress in the polls. We've been holding rallies all over the country, whilst other people like Change UK, they've had a small sort of book club launch in a room. So let's just see the launch video of the Brexit party just on the screen here, hopefully if the technology works.
We have been betrayed. That is why I set up the Brexit Party. It's why we're going to fight the European elections on May the 23rd. And that is just the beginning of what is needed in this country.
Democracy is under threat.
And when politicians fail to deliver, there must be consequences.
I was too young to vote in 2016, but now I support the Brexit Party because I believe in delivering on democracy.
It's time to recognise that actually we are an incredible nation.
This isn't about left or right.
It's about standing up for our right to be heard.
Successful, hard-working, so much to be confident, enthusiastic and optimistic about.
That's why I'm supporting the Brexit Party.
We are a single nation. We wish to remain a nation.
They must adhere to the promises made to the people.
Let's be optimistic.
And for the benefit of our children and grandchildren, if you want a home and you're a Brexiteer, you join the Brexit Party now.
We can do so much better than currently we're getting from our members of parliament. We want to be an independent, self-governing nation, making its own laws, controlling its own borders and being proud of who we are as a people. Join us, help us, support us, do what you can for us. We need change in this country and we need it now. Britain needs the Brexit Party and the Brexit Party needs you.
So I just want to make sure you haven't all gone to sleep. Let's have your placards up. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. Excellent. You're all on side. Better than our politicians, of course, who have just completely and utterly humiliated us. the scene of our Prime Minister writing not one, but 2 begging letters in the space of a fortnight to overseas leaders and bungling Brussels bureaucrats, begging letters asking how we can conduct ourselves and run our economy. It's an absolute outrage. Incompetent leadership, incapable negotiators, and MPs trying to do dirty, nasty, dodgy deals in back rooms against the democratic will of the people. It's an absolute disgrace. I don't know whether the Prime Minister's hard of hearing, but she's tried to get this horrendous worst deal in history through the House of Commons, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And now, we hear in the last 24 hours, she's going to try again. When's she going to get it? Did you not read the polls at the weekend showing what's going to happen to the Conservative vote, hopefully in next week's European elections? It's going to completely collapse. It's unbelievable. So these MPs, they're trying to sell our great nation down the river, tying it up into a straitjacket and giving the key to the padlock to these people in Brussels. The civil service have shown to be completely and utterly woeful. They've been involved in negotiating this, the worst deal in history. Why? Because they don't believe in it. Who on earth would send into battle, into a negotiation, people who don't believe in what they're negotiating for? You wouldn't do it when you're going to go and buy a car or a house. Why on earth would you do it when you're trying to do a great deal for our country? Enough is enough, ladies and gentlemen. This country deserves so much better. It really does. And that's why we launched the Brexit Party, because we knew that enough is enough. We are a strong, proud, incredible nation. We always have been, and we are poised to go from strength to strength. But it requires competent, capable leadership. It requires politicians of experience who've done something, achieved something, know how things work. And that's why we're so proud of the 70 candidates, MEP candidates, including those that you'll hear from for Wales shortly. The quality of them is truly outstanding. I believe that it's the highest quality group of candidates that have ever stood for public office in a generation. The vast majority of these people never thought that they would be tempted to run for public office. But they, like Nigel and I, just said, we've got to do something. We cannot allow this to go on anymore. Enough is truly enough. We believe, that actually the great British people want strong leadership. They want politicians who know how to get things done, to make things happen, who know how to spend our taxpayers' cash. It's not government money, it's our money, taxpayers' cash, and we should be spending it wisely, properly, smartly, cutting out the waste, because that way we could have so much better public services and infrastructure. But to do that, you've got to have competent, capable people, basically following common sense politics. And that is what we stand for. Our slogan is simple and it's clear. We're here to change politics for good. And the first thing we've got to do, all of us, we've got to make sure that not only we vote, but your family, your friends of friends, they've got to vote in this European election. It's never been more important. Never has the opportunity been greater for change. Never has the appetite been stronger for change. And now is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, when truly we have to send that clear message to Westminster. We told them once 3 years ago, they didn't listen. They're still not listening. So let's make them listen next Thursday at the ballot box. Because let's be very clear, a vote for the Brexit Party is a vote for a clean, simple WTO Brexit. It's also a vote that some of our candidates many who've been very successful in business and know about negotiation, we demand that some of our candidates play a significant role in the future negotiations. We will have the greatest direct democratic mandate for our candidates to go into that negotiating room. And I look forward to the Prime Minister's response if she loses and if we win and she tries to refuse us. So spread the message, ladies and gentlemen. We have the confidence in our great nation, and we, the Brexit Party, and we Brexiteers, we believe in Britain. Do we believe in Britain? Yes! Which brings me on to the first of our fantastic candidates for Wales. He's been an entrepreneur. He was involved in the social care business. He employed some 200 people before he became an MEP, which he's been since 2014. It's fantastic to have him back with us. Before we welcome Nathan Gill to the stage, I think we've got a video of him in action.
This is not what we voted for. It said very clearly on the ballot paper to stay in the EU or to leave. It said nothing about arranging a deal. It said nothing about triggering Article 50. It said nothing about any of these delaying tactics. All of these claims that they made, not one of them have proven to be the reality. Our economy has boomed, whereas other economies within Europe have gone downwards. It's a national disgrace, and quite frankly, I am furious that this is the best deal that she could get. Quite frankly, my 14-year-old son could have negotiated a better deal than this dog's dinner.
Here we are, Nathan Gill. All right.
Wow, Merthyr Tydfil, who would have thought that we could come here and that we could attract such a crowd as this? Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for making it across the barricades. They love democracy so much that they want you to get here and listen to what we have to say. It's bonkers. It's extremely significant that we're actually here. We could have picked one of dozens of towns in South Wales, but we decided that we wanted to have this rally here in Merthyr Tydfil because Merthyr has been at the forefront of British history in the past, and we want you to be a part of British history in the future. Now, of course, we all know about the Industrial Revolution. Did you know Merthyr Tydfil had 4 of the largest steel factories in the entire world here? And looking out today at the beautiful countryside, it makes you wonder what it must have looked like back then. Politically, Merthyr Tydfil has also been very crucial. In 1900, the people of Merthyr voted for Keir Hardie to be their representative in the Houses of Westminster as their MP. Now, Keir Hardie was a founder member of the Labour Party. He fought for workers' rights and for the rights of women to vote as well. 116 years later, there was a very important referendum, which I'm sure many of you can remember. In fact, it was the referendum to end all referendums. Now, yesterday I was looking through my notebook at some of the notes I'd been making throughout my political career, and I turned to the 2016 campaign during the referendum, and I had written in there a soundbite that I wanted to say on TV in a debate, and it was, "You must vote in this referendum because it will be your last chance to have a say." Well, how wrong was I? Because they didn't listen, did they? They didn't take your vote for fact. They just decided that actually you got it wrong. You didn't know what you were voting for. And in the best tradition of the EU, do it again and again until you get it right. All 4 of the Labour MEP candidates think that you didn't know what you was voting for, and all 4 of them want to have a second referendum here in Wales. It's unbelievable, isn't it, that these people can actually stand and say that they are Democrats, that they believe in democracy. How can the MP from Merthyr Tydfil feel that they can walk down the high street of Merthyr when 56% of the people here voted to leave, knowing full well that they and the AMs want you to have this second vote? It's an absolute disgrace. Wales voted to leave the EU. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people think that it was just over the border, our big neighbour in England, but it wasn't. The Welsh voice needed to be heard. We were loud and we were proud, and we said that we knew that we were better off out. The Labour Party of today does not represent the Labour Party of Keir Hardie. It has changed beyond all recognition. Over the last 119 years, the ideals and the reasons for the Labour Party to exist, they've been watered down and eroded to the point that now the Labour Party only exists to serve the Labour Party. If you disagree with them on any issue, you will be ostracised and banished from their ranks. Last night I was campaigning in the Gurnos estate here. I was amazed at the number of people that were coming out to their doors and saying to me that they were never going to vote for Labour again. Here in Merthyr Tydfil, it's incredible. Something is in the air, isn't it? Something is changing, and goodness me, doesn't something need to change? All over Wales, we are hearing similar messages from Labour and Conservative members and activists. The Brexit Party is the new movement. It's here because we have come to the realisation that actually the two-party state is broken. It serves no one but the two parties themselves. And the biggest example of this, of course, was the referendum. You were told, you tell us, you have your say, once in a generation opportunity to tell the Prime Minister, to tell the members of Parliament in Westminster, and what did they say? They will do exactly what you tell them. Unless, of course, you tell them what they didn't want to hear. The people of Wales voted 52.5% to leave the EU compared to 47.5% to remain. Of the local authorities, there's 22 here in Wales, 17 voted to leave, including this one. Merthyr Tydfil voted 56.5% to leave. Caerphilly, they did a little bit better actually, 57.6% to leave. And good old Bladdergwen, 62% to leave. And yet you've got Labour MPs and AMs who disagree with you and want you to vote again till you agree with them. You knew what you were voting for. You knew what Brexit meant, because I know you're not stupid. And it's an absolute outrage that our politicians think that they know better than you. You didn't vote for a deal to be aligned closely to the EU, to stay in the customs union or the single market. None of that was on the ballot paper. It just simply said, remain a member of the EU or leave the EU. We knew what we were voting for. Which is 23 miles, I think, in that direction. 23 miles away, but actually it may as well be 23,000 miles away for the good it does here in Merthyr. I know that too many of you feel that that referendum was was honoured, that devolution was honoured, because it was actually jobs for them, wasn't it? It was benefiting the politicians, not the people. With a very, very minuscule turnout of just 50.2%, the Yes to Devolution campaign won with 50.3% of the vote. That's just 6,721 majority. Of the 22 local authorities in Wales, 11 voted yes and 11 voted no. But there was no ambiguity, no call to delay for 3 years while we argued what the vote actually meant. The people of Wales had spoken, and that was what was enacted. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that's how a democracy works. This is what you do when you have a referendum. We're not Ireland and we're not Greece. This is Wales. We voted for it, we expect it, and we want it. $295,153 more people voted for Brexit than voted for Welsh devolution. More people than live in Swansea or Wrexham or Newport. The Brexit Party is here to give the people of Wales, once again, a voice that will be heard in Westminster. We are saying that the will of the people must overrule the will not of Parliament. Give us your vote on the 23rd of May. Tell your neighbours, tell your family and your friends. We can do something with this anger, with this frustration, and with this shaken faith in democracy. We can send an earthquake to the heart of Westminster that we must be listened to. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Isn't it great, ladies and gentlemen? Nathan Gill. He referred to the broken two-party system. When we say we want to change politics for good, that involves taking on the vested interests of the establishment. Drain the swamp. Wonderful. We're going to take on the establishment. We're going to take on the lobby groups for the multinationals like the CBI. We're going to take on and reform the civil service so that they're popular around here, aren't they? We'll try that again. We're definitely going to take on the civil service. Remember that. Standing to be elected requires courage, it requires bravery. And our next speaker never imagined that she would be putting herself up for election. But it's fantastic to have her on board. You shouldn't mess with her either, because she used to be a soldier in the TA, and she tells me she's very fast at being able to strip a submachine gun. More seriously, we can always have a bit of fun in politics. More seriously, she's worked both in the private sector, in legal services, and also in the public sector. She knows how things can be improved. It's fantastic to have Julie Price as our candidate on the Welsh list. Julie. Julie Price.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah. The only time I've ever spoken on a microphone like this was on the checkout in B&Q. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I should not be standing here, and you should not be standing there. It's an outrage. And why we're here? Nobody is listening to us. In 2016, we were asked that question, encouraged to speak our minds via the ballot box. When it came to the question asked, initially I was open-minded. If Cameron had come back with something, anything, I may have voted to remain, but he didn't. I read the leaflet, you know that leaflet, and then decided to campaign for Vote Leave. After all, this was a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and I really wanted to do my bit. I voted to leave, like all of you, like the majority did. I did what was asked of me. And do you know what happened? The whole political class, the media, comedians, thespians, even the sports pundits lost their collective minds. Ugh. I'm actually a very private person, and I find it very hard to wear my political heart on my sleeve, especially in the face of the rancour, disrespect, hatred and ridicule that has been thrown at all of us as Leavers. People don't know much about me. I'm very ordinary, and my professional life has largely been about supporting those who are in the limelight, like lawyers, like Welsh Government ministers. I used to be a civil servant. I'm not anymore. But hey, my head's well and truly above the parapet, so here goes a little bit about me and my journey. I was born in Cardiff, in the Roath area. My great-grandfather was William Atkinson, and he was a merchant seaman. He landed in Cardiff and fell in love with a lady who was selling the tea at Cardiff Central Station. She was called Hilda. This was 1917. After he finished his service, he became a sewerman, and he did that for the rest of his career. They had 14 children between them, and she was a cleaner. And one of those 14 was my nana. All of the kids grew up and survived to adulthood, which is quite a feat at the time, and they entered the services, worked in ship shops, cigar factories and shops, and some of them laboured on building sites. They all worked hard, they stayed just about on the right side of the law, they paid their taxes, and they cast their votes when they damn well felt like it. And I come from this stock. I work hard, I make a living, and I've made my own luck, as have we all stood here today. We're a traditional working class family, the sort who would support the Labour Party and expect the Labour Party to support us. That family, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and my parents are my absolute heroes. And hello to Mum and Dad in Crete watching on live feed. They've posted their postal votes, it's okay. The work ethic instilled in me helped me to be the very first in my family to go to university. I found it really hard to do that, but I did it. I got the degree, and I'm lucky to have worked ever since in the public sector. I live in Newport now with my lovely husband. Yay! As far as politics goes, I've always been a floating voter. I've voted for every mainstream party, depending on the issues, what's happening in the country, what's happening in the world, and how I feel on the day. In '97, I voted for Labour, and I got what I wanted. In '97, I also voted against the establishment of the Welsh Assembly. I didn't get what I voted for. Do you know what? I just moved on. And then in 2016, I expected the majority vote to be implemented, because that's what usually happens. I pay my taxes, we all make our contribution, and in return, we get our votes. And in 2016, we told the government that we wanted to leave the EU. They haven't listened, and they are still not listening. So, next week, we have to exercise our vocal cords yet again. So, who do we vote for as Leavers? I'm going to take you through the options here. Labour. All of the Welsh candidates want another referendum. They are perfectly open about that. Plaid Cymru. Well, they've set out their stall. They want to stay in the EU, but they actually want to come out of the UK, presumably via referendum. The Conservatives. They just need to sort themselves out. And the Lib Dems are actually... The Lib Dems are saying bollocks to Brexit, proving that they are not liberal or democratic. And the rest, no credibility, so I'm not going to mention them. 6 weeks ago, and I'm sure all of you felt exactly the same way, I was saying I am never going to vote again. And now I'm saying I'm not having this. We made our decision. So, literally in the last month, I've turned full circle. From never wanting to vote again, now I've got a party to vote for. And to all those politicians and journalists clutching their pearls at the polls, the rising number of supporters, Nigel having the audacity to be on the telly, I say this: he gave you notice. He told you this would happen, and you've all lost your minds again. Seriously. Since the referendum, I've been saying for 3 years now that politics is broken in this country, and I really do genuinely feel that it is. When the whole nation cannot believe a word that comes out of our Prime Minister's mouth, politics is broken. When a tagged and convicted criminal is allowed back into the Commons, politics is broken. And when the Speaker is nothing like impartial, politics is broken. We need massive change in this country, and I believe that this Brexit party is that change.
Well done. Brilliant. Isn't she great? Big hand. Julia Price. Grab a few there. So brave, so passionate, and so anxious about what's going on in politics today. Now, I was a little bit rude about the civil service earlier, but the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, there are exceptions. And our next speaker is without question one of those exceptions. Because, like all of us, he looked at what happened and he said, "This is an outrage. It's shocking. It's a disgrace." And he spoke to his wife and he said, "You know what? I'm going to give up my very nice job at the civil service with his nice pension," because he knew that the moment that he announced that he would be a candidate, he would have to resign immediately, that day, leave the office. So he really did put his whole financial security on the line for democracy. And it is truly humbling to have him standing for the Brexit Party in these European elections. And let's just remember, we talk about a waste of taxpayers' cash. I mean, Julie referred to it. This election is costing £150 million. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the price of a large new hospital. It's unbelievable how these clowns are wasting our money. But it really is. I want you to give a massive, massive welcome to James Wells, because he has really put his neck on the line for democracy. James, welcome.
Please welcome to the stage, James Wells.
Good evening, Merthyr. Wow, what a fantastic campaign we're having in Wales at the moment. Do you know how we know how it's going so well? Because the establishment is out to get us. Yeah. All the attacks on Nigel we're seeing on the BBC and the establishment, they're worried. Do you know what they're worried about, though? They're worried that you have had enough of them. So we've been out campaigning all across Wales over the past 2 weeks, and the reception we've had is truly amazing. So personally, I've been to Cardiff, Newport, Pontypool, Maesteg, Bridgend, Porthcawl, and of course the best place in South Wales, Merthyr Tydfil. And when we've been out campaigning, two themes have emerged speaking to people. One is about democracy, and the other is about changing voting patterns in Wales. So firstly, on democracy. The one thing that unites many Remainers, but all Leavers, is the sense that democracy is being trampled on by our MPs in Westminster. They've ignored the largest democratic vote in our history. So what do our MPs say about that? Well, what they say is, we didn't know what we were voting for. They say it's not possible or it's too difficult to deliver Brexit. They say we were lied to, or that we've changed our minds. Have you changed your mind? So after speaking to people on the streets across Wales, do you know what? We did know what we were voting for. That yes, we were lied to, but we were lied to by successive UK governments about what the EU is and where it's heading. And it's also clear that very few people have changed their minds. In fact, I've come across dozens of Remainers that are now going to vote Leave because they believe in democracy. And you know what? Delivering Brexit is actually quite simple. We ask the EU if it wants to do a deal, and if it doesn't, we walk away on WTO. And so people are angry. And I've spoken to lots of people, like Joyce from Cardiff, who said that she could not believe that this is the country that people around the world respect when we talk about democracy. She said, we expect the UK to set an example to other countries. But if they're doing things like this, then what does that mean for our democracy? And she's right. And that's why you lot are tamping at our MPs in Westminster. And it's even worse than that, as Richard highlighted. £150 million for these elections 3 years after we voted to leave the EU. That could buy a new hospital, or it could train up 2,000 new nurses. And it's a disgrace. And that's why people are angry. And people are angry with our MPs such as Dominic Grieve, Oliver Letwin, and my favourite, Anna Soubry. And what about Yvette Cooper? Her constituency voted 66.4% to leave, and yet she has the gall to put forward a bill to take no deal off the table to try and stop Brexit. And what about Gerald Jones, Labour MP for Merthyr Tydfil and Rhymney? You lot voted 56.5% to leave the EU, and yet Gerald voted to take no deal off the table. And he was voted in by you to represent you. So, democracy matters, and it's a disgrace that our MPs think so little of it. So the second theme that emerged while speaking to people across Wales is the change in voting patterns. Nina from Pontypool put it well. She said, my grandparents would turn in their grave if they knew that I was voting for any party other than Labour. But Jeremy Corbyn has let Wales down. She said, Corbyn has sat on the fence trying to pretend to Leave voters that he will respect the referendum, while also suggesting to Remain voters that the party will hold a second referendum. And that is why people across Wales, everywhere we go, are losing faith in Labour. Another example of the disingenuousness of Labour is its 6 tests that it published to decide whether it would support a Brexit deal. One of those tests said any deal must deliver the exact same benefits that we currently have as members of the single market and customs union. Well, a deal that delivers that is membership of the European Union. It's not leaving the EU. So what this tells us about Labour is that it's more interested in playing political games than it is delivering the result of the referendum. Sorry, I need some water. And I also hear this week that Keir Starmer and Tom Watson have come out saying that Labour should back a second referendum. And then you've got the likes of Lord Adonis, who says that Labour voters who want Brexit should not vote Labour. Well, I agree with him. So, Labour has let Wales down, and what people are saying is they're tamping about it. And you know what? I'm angry too. I'm so angry that 3 weeks ago I resigned from a secure job in the civil service, a job that I loved, so that I can stand as your MEP candidate for the Brexit Party in Wales. And what I want to say to those MPs is that I resigned because I've had enough of the nonsense going on in Westminster. I resigned because I want to stand for a party that stands up for democracy. And I resigned because I want to change our politics for good and help end the two-party political system that is currently broken. And to borrow a great phrase from the amazing Anne Widdecombe, I want to tell the MPs in Westminster that they're a bunch of nincompoops. So listen, we have a fantastic list of candidates from all walks of life, successful people who've actually done something with their lives. We believe in democracy, and we want to say to the MPs that we meant it the first time where we voted, and we still mean it. So if you're fed up, like me, and you want to send a message to the MPs in Westminster that they need to respect the referendum result, make sure that you vote for us on the 23rd of May. Thank you.
Brilliant, well done, great. James Wells, ladies and gentlemen, former head of trade at the Office for National Statistics and now an outstanding candidate for the Brexit Party. And James referred to the advantages of a WTO Brexit, one of which is that we don't need to waste £39 billion by writing a cheque and sending it to Brussels. No, we can spend it back here in the United Kingdom, in the regions, investing where it should be spent. And we had some exciting news today because we now, the Brexit Party, we actually have our first 4 elected members of an assembly because 4 members moved over to the Brexit Party in the Welsh Assembly, which means that when we save that £39 billion, they can help ensure that it's properly, wisely spent here in Wales. And it's fantastic. Our next speaker will promise to deliver that for you. Please give a huge round of applause, Mark Reckless.
Two years ago, I made a terrible mistake. I trusted Theresa May. When she triggered Article 50 and said we would leave the European Union on the 29th of March this year, with or without a deal, I believed her. When she said we would leave the European Union's customs union, the European Union's single market, and the European Union's Court of Justice, I voted for her. I made a terrible mistake. She has not delivered any of those things. Now, I thought I was in good company. I thought quite a lot of people who'd voted for Brexit believed what the Conservatives said, thought that if you voted leave in a referendum, that's what would be delivered. I remember in the referendum canvassing some people and them saying to me that, well, you say vote leave, but what difference will it make? The politicians will never do it. And I thought that was the wider fringes of a conspiracy. I thought the idea that if you had a referendum and there was a clear vote to leave, the idea that the politicians just wouldn't do it, that they would ignore it, I thought that was for the birds. I was wrong. So the Conservative Party is not delivering what it promised. They tried to drive a disastrous deal through Parliament, a deal that would hand over 39 billion quid. 39 billion quid Richard Tice would much rather we spent here in the UK, including in Wales. I'm not sure politicians always spend your money well, but I'm sure it would be spent a lot better if the decisions were made closer to home rather than in the European Union. When that disastrous deal that would lock us into the European Union's customs union unless they gave us permission to leave, when that was voted down in Parliament, Theresa May and her cabinet, no more than 2 months ago, faced an existential choice. They had to choose between leaving the European Union with no deal or remaining. They chose to remain. They betrayed every one of those 17.4 million people who voted in a referendum to leave, and now they are going to see the consequences of their actions. But that's enough of the Conservatives. Here in Wales, we are ruled by the Labour Party. There is a Labour government. There is a Labour-dominated assembly. Of the 60 assembly members, 10 of us voted to leave. The other 50 all voted to remain. But you decided differently. And to start with, those other 50 AMs, they told us they would respect the result. But gradually, as they've begun to think they could get away with it, thinking there's no alternative to their parties, to Labour in the Valley's constituencies, they thought they could do what they want. Alan Davis represents Blaenau Gwent. 62% of his voters voted to leave. But he tells them they got it wrong. He says they need to vote again. He says he knows best. Lynn Neagle in Torvine, 60% of her voters said to leave. But she wants to stay. And she thinks she should get to decide, that she knows best. And here in Merthyr with Dawn Bowden, we 57% voted leave, but she wants to back her party, looking at forcing you to vote again. And they have a Brexit minister. They have a statement almost every week about Brexit. It's not their responsibility to deliver it, not just not to block it, but they've got a Brexit minister who's always updating us about what they're doing. And he says he has to strike a balance between how you voted, what you decided to do in that referendum, and his superior understanding of what he says are your best interests. He says he knows best, and you may be made to vote again. We're having a chance to vote again next Thursday. European elections, we should never have been voting in, but they're making us. And I see a lot of people out there who are waving banners. And I say to you, take away those banners tonight, take them home, display them in their windows, give them to your neighbours. Don't just vote yourself next Thursday, but ask everyone you know, everyone you see, to come out and vote for the Brexit Party. You have heard what some of these candidates have given up to fight to represent you. I see every day those politicians who think they know best, who want to tell you what to do. But ultimately, in a democracy, it's not them who's in charge, it is you. Everyone needs a boss, and for elected politicians, it is their constituents who are their boss. This Brexit Party is going to change politics for good, and I ask you all of you, to go out next Thursday and show them who is boss.
Well done, Mark. Mark Reckless, ladies and gentlemen. And so to our final speaker. Some of you may have heard of him. He's been around for over 25 years, battling for this cause. He's without question the most influential person on British politics since the Second World War. And we've touched on Farage, but the abuse, the vitriol, the threats to his own safety and that of his family have been utterly appalling. But the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that he's been in training and he is back. Before we welcome Nigel to the stage, let's just remind ourselves of a few of his thoughts on the video.
We have a parliament that is now completely out of touch with our country. I think politics is broken. Our task and our mission is to change politics for good. The Brexit Party has been formed because, very simply, the government and parliament do not wish to deliver Brexit.
We are fighting back. The whole of our politics needs changing. The two-party system doesn't work anymore.
If they thought we were going to give up, they've got another think coming. This country needs the Brexit Party, and the Brexit Party needs you. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, Nigel Farage.
Well done, everybody. Hello, Merthyr! Welcome to the Brexit Party rally. The sun is shining. I hope and believe that is an omen. And thank you for making the effort to get here, because I understand that it's not been that easy to get into the venue. That the approach to Trago Mills was blocked by protesters lying in the road. Who were they? Well, they came from Plaid. They came from the Welsh nationalists. And what they were doing is they were trying to stop a public, democratic, open debate, free to everybody in Wales to come along to, because they don't want to have a proper, open, democratic debate. And you know why? Because they know that next Thursday they are going to get smashed by the Brexit Party in those polls. Oh yes, no question. But if you think about it, would any of us in the Brexit Party, would we try and stop other political parties, people with different points of view? Would we try and stop them from having open debate? We would never even consider behaving like that, would we? Because we believe in democracy. We believe it's the most important freedom that we have living in this country. So shame on them is what I say. But in many ways, it isn't really their fault. Because you see, ever since that beautiful morning on the 24th of June, 2016, when despite the fact that nearly all of our politicians lined up to tell us we shouldn't vote for Brexit, despite the fact the big businesses lined up to tell us we'd lose our jobs, it would all be a disaster, despite the fact our Chancellor at the time, George Osborne, told us, I know I feel the same way about him as well, I got to tell you, George Osborne telling us, 500,000 jobs would go immediately. Foreign and direct investment would stop. It was going to be a disaster. They even flew President Obama into this country to tell us that we'd go to the back of the queue. And despite all of it, by a big majority of 1.3 million votes, we said we want to govern our own country and be an independent nation. We voted Brexit. But the trouble is, you see, and the reason those protesters are outside tonight, and the reason the level of vitriol is poured upon those who believe in nothing more than us being an independent, self-governing, democratic nation, is from the very beginning, many in our political establishment, despite mouthing the words that they would respect the result of the referendum, have in fact done the complete opposite. They appear on television on a regular basis. John Major appears on television and tells us we should simply revoke Article 50, cancel the whole process. And never far behind John Major is Tony Blair. Again, telling us we didn't know what we voted for, we don't know what's good for us, we're going to have a second referendum because next time we'll get it right. And it's the same, isn't it, with Nick Clegg and so many of the others. And of course, my favourite of all of our favourites, Anna Soubry. But there is a serious point somewhere here, I'm sure I can find it. The serious point is this: democracy can only work if those that lose elections are prepared to accept the result. If that doesn't happen in a general election, if it doesn't happen in a referendum, then you finish up with a system that falls into disrepute. And I would argue the reason that we've got division in this country, the reason we've got the levels of abuse that we're seeing in this country, the reason that we've got political activists blocking the road here at Trago in Merthyr Tydfil, is many in our establishment, far from respecting the vote, have done everything they can in the last 2 years to overturn the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation, and it is a total and utter disgrace. Yep, we voted for it in a referendum. We then, in a general election, voted for two parties who promised us they'd deliver Brexit. We then saw 500 members of Parliament vote for Article 50. And like Mark, I have to confess, I thought on that day we'd won, because it became law. The law of the land was that we were going to leave on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. in the evening. But did we leave on March the 29th? Did we? Hell. Then we were told by Mrs. May, who incidentally is the worst Prime Minister in the entire history of this nation, and I think the most dishonest one as well. Then she said, don't worry your little heads, it's fine, we're leaving on the 12th of April. And did we leave? And then she told us, don't worry, it'll all be fine, we'll leave by the 30th of June, and that disappeared, and now we're told it'll be okay because we're going to leave on the 31st of October, Halloween. Trick or treaty, ask yourself. And I've come to realize, over the course of the last 6 months or so, I've come to realize that with our existing political system, we are never going to get the Brexit that we voted for, because these two parties, filled with career politicians, influenced by big money and the multinationals, simply won't ever deliver it to us. And so I had to think about this, because I've campaigned for 25 years for us to be free of this undemocratic, increasingly unpleasant European Union. And goodness me, whatever criticisms I may have had of the EU, and of course some of you may know I've been an MEP for 20 years, and I get up and give a lot of speeches in that Parliament. I'd always try to be as constructive and helpful as I possibly can be. But whatever I might have said about these people over the course of the last 2 years, they've shown themselves to be more arrogant and more dangerous than I'd ever even believe possible. The sooner we leave these people and run our own affairs, the better it'll be for our country. So in the end, Mrs. May came back waving a piece of paper and saying Brexit in our time. But the truth of it is, it's not Mrs. May's deal. It's Monsieur Barnier's treaty, which he wrote with Mrs. Merkel looking over his shoulder. It is such an appalling document that I can only countenance it being done by a nation that had been defeated in war. And it has humiliated us on the world stage. It has made our country a complete and utter laughingstock. So it's no wonder that 3 times it's been rejected by Parliament, and now we're told she's going to bring it back for a 4th time. I suppose you have to admire her persistence, if nothing else. But now what she's trying to do, she's trying to do a deal with Corbyn's Labour Party that would make an already appalling treaty from which we have perhaps no other means of escape. And she now wants, with Labour, to do a deal that could mean permanent membership of the customs union and effectively membership of the single market. And that is what the Labour and Conservative parties are now currently contemplating. They are trying to build a coalition of politicians against the people of this country, and we will not stand for it. We won't stand for it. And Labour have been rumbled. Jeremy Corbyn playing this game of constructive ambiguity, sitting on the fence, pretending to you here in Wales that really he's on your side when it comes to Brexit. The truth of it is, and you've heard much about your local MPs here in the valleys, but next Thursday when you vote, all 4 of those Labour candidates are all Remainers and all support a second referendum. So please, when you go from here, if you've got friends of yours that voted Leave and normally vote Labour, tell them they cannot possibly vote Labour if they believe in Brexit. Get that message out. And of course, I've also learnt that just winning a referendum, just winning one election isn't enough. We've got to go on from here. This is about more than Brexit now. This is about democracy. It's about trust that needs to exist in our leaders. This is all about the very bedrock of our civilization. And in order to achieve it, we are going to have to sweep away a 2-party system that now serves nothing but itself. We can do so much better than this. I believe that, and I hope you do too. So we in the Brexit Party are positive. We are optimistic. We are patriotic. We believe in our nation. We believe in the people. We believe this country currently are lions led by donkeys, and we intend to do something about it. And to give you a flavour of that positive tone, last night on BBC and ITV, we put out, and in Welsh too, we put out our party election broadcast. Some may have seen it, some may not, but have a look at the Brexit Party's party election broadcast.
Morning.
Sorry, I forgot now. I'm blonde.
Took my nose off.
People gave their lives for the right to vote.
To be able to change the things they didn't like.
We thought our votes meant something.
But we've been let down.
We've been betrayed.
Our country has been humiliated by politicians.
Those who we trusted with our vote.
We deserve so much better than this.
Politics is broken and our democracy is under threat.
Enough is enough.
It's time to change politics for good.
That's why I'm standing.
That's why I am standing.
I am standing.
I am standing.
That's why I'm leading the Brexit Party in the European elections on May the 23rd.
It's why I'm standing for the Brexit Party, so my community isn't decimated by politicians who don't listen.
And that's why I'm standing for the Brexit Party. Because we deserve better. We deserve politicians we can trust and who deliver on their promises.
There is a huge disconnect between the MPs and the people. We have all seen what can happen when people lose faith in democracy. MPs can no longer be trusted to represent the will of the people.
They say we didn't know what we voted for.
That we're stupid.
That we're racist.
But we're none of those things.
We are ordinary people.
Business people.
We are brothers.
Sisters.
Fighters.
We are doctors.
Entrepreneurs.
We are the 17.4 million people
who voted to leave.
And we deserve to be heard.
We believe that without democracy,
we have nothing.
We all deserve to be heard, and in June 2016, 17.4 million of us voted to leave the European Union. And here we are, 3 years on, and nothing has been delivered. Our vote has been betrayed. This is about more than Brexit. It's about democracy, our country, how the rest of the world sees us. Our politics is broken, and it's time we did something about it. The Brexit Party is about change. You can do something with your vote. Vote for the Brexit Party and change politics for good. Vote for the Brexit Party on May the 23rd, and let's change politics for good.
So that's the theme of this campaign. We don't just want to beat the other parties on May the 23rd. We want to go on from there, and we will, to the Peterborough by-election. We'll go on from there and prepare for a general election. This country needs better people in politics. This country needs major political reform. We need a parliament that represents the people, not one that fights against the people. We're in this. We're serious about this. We're not going away. We believe with your support, we can change politics for good. So let me ask you, are you with us? Thank you.
I did tell you he was back. Better than ever. Warmed up for the greatest battle ahead. We've just got time for a few questions, just to give Nigel a break. I've got a question actually for Nathan from Annette. Today it was announced that the poorest children in the whole country live here in this valley down the road after 40 years in the European Union. How can that change?
Thank you, Annette. I mean, basically, we have been the recipients of 2 tranches of EU money, and we were told that that was going to lift us out of being one of the poorest regions of the EU. Did it do that?
No.
No, because they're asking for more money. And the time has come for us to stand on our own 2 feet, to make our country great again, and to actually invest in ourselves, in things that we need to invest in, instead of spending that money on £30,000 worth of street furniture in Pontypool that practically nobody sits on. It's a complete and utter waste. We are a party that believe in investing in our own children's futures. I've got 5 children. I'm rather, I'm a little...
Enough.
No. I was going to say, I'm kind of looking at this in a bit of a selfish way. I want my children to have a great future, which is why I got involved in politics in the first place. And that's why we want each of you to get involved in politics, so that we can have a Wales that we all believe in.
Now, Steve's got a very important question. Nigel, did you enjoy your pint in the Abergley?
What a lovely pub it is, and a beautiful part of the world this is too, isn't it? Now, I've said to everybody, I've said to all the press, that I'm off the beer. No, I'm not a liar, but I did sneak in a gin and tonic before lunch.
Now, Sarah asks, what happens if May gets her bad deal through in some dodgy deal with Jeremy Corbyn? Then what?
Well, I mean, the Prime Minister says she will bring back the treaty either with these Labour amendments or without these Labour amendments, and she'll bring them back to the House of Commons in the week beginning June the 3rd. Why would she do that? Well, because she hopes that her own backbenchers and many in the Labour Party will be so terrified by what the Brexit vote has done to them in the European elections that she thinks out of fear they will all come into line, because that would mean we wouldn't actually have to take our seats in Brussels and Strasbourg. Let me just tell you something. The appetite now for us to simply be free of this European club and to get on with the rest of our lives has never been stronger at any point in the last 3 years. And if they think they can get rid of the Brexit party by passing a terrible treaty that costs us 40 billion, that doesn't mean Brexit at all, if they really think they can do that and get away with it, my answer is they will be stunned at what we'll do in the next general election. We'll try and sweep them away.
And does the same apply, Nigel? Final question. Graham from Barry. Does the same apply if they withdraw Article 50?
Well, I mean, look, Article 50, despite what John Major thinks, perhaps he's got a bit funny with age, I don't know. The idea, I mean, if Article 50 was revoked, if this became the Labour Party's policy to simply cancel the greatest democratic exercise that had ever been seen in our nation, then in those circumstances, the Brexit Party wouldn't do well in the next general election. It would win the next general election. And I think it would.
You heard it loud and clear, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we've got time for. But let's just have our hands in the air, all of the candidates as well. Placards in the air, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody up. We've got one more. Perfect. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. One more time. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very safe trip home. Thank you.